here in Shanghai. Today we put a spotlight on blockchain. Our purpose is to inspire industry professionals and entrepreneurs alike, and to discuss exciting perspectives regarding blockchain in a Chinese context. For this purpose, we are proud to introduce a group of highly experienced practitioners and experts. Based on 2 topical panel discussions, they will enlighten us about key themes related to the commercial, practical, and strategic application of blockchain. Our panelists will, of course, also take questions from the audience, so please feel free to write your questions in the online commentary track as we go along. There's no such thing as a silly question. Feel free to ask anything. We have a strong panel here, or 2 strong panels to answer. But before we start the discussions, we're very happy that Ran Zhao from the Danish Innovation Center in Shanghai has accepted to set the scene by telling us about the blockchain technological evolution in China. Ran is the Senior Tech Innovation Officer at the Innovation Center, and she's carefully monitoring China's digital development. She's also the frontrunner in the Blockchain Business Bridge initiative, which is actually the umbrella for today's seminar and for many other exciting activities. Ran, the screen is yours.
Thanks, Peter. Hi, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon. Peter, can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So before we enter into the 2 very exciting panel, let me just say a few words about how blockchain is developing in China, and also who we are as Blockchain Business Bridge. So together with my colleague Peter and Hans from DCBF, Roman from ITU, we found Blockchain Business Bridge, which is a non-profit platform for business collaboration and knowledge exchange between China, Denmark, and the world. We are founded by the Danish Industry Foundation since 2019. But the idea of Blockchain Business Bridge can be traced back to 2018. It started from my personal interest in blockchain technology itself, and then in later that year, I invited a group of professors, leading by Professor Roman Beck himself, and 2 companies from Denmark, Box Shipping and Quantify, to China. We met with local government officials, industry parks, investors, blockchain companies, and industry players, and we found there are more interesting collaboration opportunities between China and Denmark in this field. Therefore, we applied for a funding from the Industry Foundation of Denmark. And here we have BBB. So let's get back to how blockchain is developed in China. So here you can see, President Xi Jinping has the first time mentioned blockchain technology in a public, very important meeting, where he emphasized on the development of blockchain as a new technology should play a very important role in China's industry transformation. And also he calls for more breakthrough research and development in the independent core technologies within blockchain area. And since then, we can see a boom of blockchain technologies from all levels in the government. From in complete statistics, 170 72 new policies and regulations related to blockchain are issued last year, and 21% of them are national policies and regulations. From the content-wise, we can also see industrial blockchain and applications with blockchain are the biggest focus of China, and then digital economy comes the third. So today in this webinar, we'll also focus more on the industrial application of blockchain, not the crypto. And last month, in the most important parliamentary meetings in China, which is known as Lianghui, or the two sessions, the National People's Congress published the 14th China's new 5-year plan. And first time in history, blockchain was mentioned in this plan. For those who are not very familiar with China's political system, this 5-year plan is a very important guideline for the country's economic development. So it's like every 5 years we have this plan. Is not only a statement of the ambition of China, but also a call for action for both private and public sector. So the whole country will move forward toward this, what's written in the plan. And smart contracts and other 3 core technology areas were mentioned as the key development focus of China. In the application scenarios, fintech, supply chain management, and government affairs was mentioned among the others. In China, blockchain is now seen as a new infrastructure. So here, when we talk about infrastructure, it's no longer about highways, railways, port and airport, those concrete big projects. Now when we talk about new infrastructure, we are talking about 5G base stations, UHV, big data centers, industrial internet, and new electronic vehicle charging piles, and so on. So very interesting. Blockchain is also listed as a part of the new technology-based infrastructure, together with AI and cloud computing. And in 2020, blockchain-based service network was launched. This is seen as a cloud, cross-portal, and cross-framework global public infrastructure network used to deploy and operate all kinds of blockchain distributed apps. So the launch of BSN is mainly to solve the problem of the high cost. In the future, everybody can use blockchain service, just like how we use water and electricity now. It will be cheap and accessible to everyone. And with the fast deployment of the new infrastructure, we can see smart cities are in the core development agenda of many of the leading cities in China, like Beijing, Shanghai, Hangzhou, Hainan, Shenzhen. Later on, we'll talk more about this topic in the second panel. When there is a heated support and encouragement from the central government in the industrial blockchain, on the other hand, the cryptos are facing in a cold winter. So start in 2017, the Central Bank of China, together with 6 financial authorities, has released a statement where they say strictly no to ICOs. This initiative is mainly concerning of the illegal fundraising and fraud and other new risks that brought to the market by ICOs. But it doesn't mean that China does not embrace digital economy or digital currency. Actually, China has been exploring the launch of its own centralized digital currency since 2014. This is not really our topic today, but I just want to say a little bit about it because it's a heated discussion recently on it. So DCEP, known as the digital currency electronic payment, is not a cryptocurrency. You cannot buy it like Ethereum or Bitcoin on the crypto market. It is a M0, a liability from the central bank, a digital format of the currency of Chinese yuan. And it runs like two-tier operation system. So in the first initial tier, the Central Bank of China issued the currencies to the commercial banks or other institutions. And then the commercial banks issue the DC to the public. And it solves the problems of privacy. For now, all the mobile payment that we use today, either issued from the technology companies like Alibaba or Tencent, or from the commercial bank, you need to open a bank account for it. And therefore, your information are registered to an entity, and your transactions can always be traced from either the bank or the technology companies. But with DCEP, your transactions will be all tokenized, and nobody else will get hold of your information. Only in very special cases, like if there's a very big amount of transaction money, the central bank can open and get access to our data to avoid illegal money transactions or corruptions as such. And one thing is different from the cryptocurrency is also by nature is technology neutral. So on the central bank layer, it embraces all kinds of technologies, not only DLT or blockchain. And then let's have a look at the growing startup scene in China within blockchain. Now there's a very diverse and active startup scene in China, from the underlying technology to some general applications to some niche market industrial applications all around. We can see that there is a fast development in the number of blockchain companies born in China since 2016. The growth rate is at peak in 2018 due to the crazy increase of the crypto market. But then for the past 2 years, the market calmed down. We can still see a good and stable number of new companies in this area. Also in China, all the tech giants are invest heavily in blockchain technologies, from Alibaba and its financial arm Ant Finance to Tencent, Huawei, and JD.com. All of them have their own blockchain service or blockchain platform. As we just said, financial industry is one sector that has been disrupted by blockchain technology heavily. So in China, many of the banks and financial institutions are exploring the using and applying of blockchain technology. And the main focus areas are digital asset, credit and loans, supply chain finance, payment and settlement. Our number here is a little bit overdated. I think for now, there should be more than 50 banks at least in China have their own blockchain related projects. And at last, the research and development is also ongoing in China with a rapid speed. Here we can see there's a great quantity of new patent applications in China every year since 2017. And in the global scale, we can still see China is the heated area where new blockchain patents are applied. But when we talk about patent here, we only talk about applications, not the result or not the quality of the blockchain technologies. Okay, here is just a briefing about what is happening in the blockchain ecosystem and industry in China. For now, I will give the word back to Peter and our panelists to discuss more of how blockchain is empowered in the society and where we can see both of the commercial and social value of blockchain.
Thank you very much, Ron, for that insightful introduction to China's tech aspirations. As Ron said, we will get back to you at the end of the seminar with some more information about this and our specific initiative that this seminar is part of. But I should also just say that because the visual presentation from Ron was a little bit blurry, we will share it later with all of you who wish so. That leads us to the first of today's two panel discussion. The topic of the first discussion is how blockchain solves food safety challenges. It will focus on whether Danish food safety practices could constitute some sort of starting point for developing blockchain applications in the food industry, and whether China's approach to adopting new technology at this breakneck speed we are used to out here could be the way forward for Danish food companies. To help us introduce the panelists and guide the discussion, we are pleased to welcome Hans Henrik Pontoppidan, who is the Secretary General of the Danish-Chinese Business Forum. Hans Henrik has intimate knowledge of how Danish companies have fared in China over time and what Denmark and China can learn from each other. Hans Henrik, I will give you the word. And again, just before, I would like to say to the rest of the audience, please feel free, drop your questions, write your questions as we go along, whatever you feel that could be interesting to get some inputs on from our panelists, please go ahead. Sorry, Hans Henrik, floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Peter, and thanks also to the Confederation of Danish Industry for hosting this online event on behalf of Blockchain Business Bridge partners supported by Industriens Fund. Just a comment to Ran, I think it's very interesting that China is introducing the e-yuan, and I've heard that it will be formally introduced at the Winter Olympics in 2022, but they are already now testing it in one province. And I've been told that the reason for introducing an e-yuan is to develop a sort of a government alternative to Alipay and WeChat Pay, which have grasped a very high market share. So the government wants to have a government alternative to that. But we are a little behind schedule, so I will jump into the panel discussion. I'm to moderate the first of two panel discussions, as Peter said, mine on the topic of how blockchain could be a useful tool in relationship to food safety challenges. As Peter said, my name is Hans Henrik Pontoppidan, and I'm the Secretary General of Danish-Chinese Business Forum. For you who might not know what that is, it is an industry organization basically established by Danish industry players in order to help the same corporate members navigating in the very important but also very challenging Chinese market. As an introduction to the topic, it's known fact that particularly Chinese consumers, they are skeptical on the topic, among others, food safety due to past food scandals. When Chinese consumers decide to buy a foreign brand, can they be sure that it is the genuine product they are purchasing? And there the blockchain come in very handy. On top of this, the COVID-19 have provided a new dimension on the topic of consumer scare. One of the challenges is, as Peter also said, that Denmark is globally renowned for its focus on transparency in food supply chain, but not necessarily or not considered a first mover in adopting new technology solutions, and with the emphasis on the consumer side of the equation. So today's presentation, panel discussion, hopefully will contribute to more Danish companies considering using digital solutions like blockchain to support sales. To this purpose, we are fortunate to have representatives from two of Denmark's largest players in the area, being Søren Tinggaard from Danish Crown, Snorre Sigurdsson from Arla Food, as well as Jay Jiang from the Chinese blockchain solution provider WeChain. Søren Tinggaard is the Vice President at Danish Crown and is responsible for the strategic development, production and sales derived from the Chinese production plant. And Søren has worked with the Chinese market for more than 20 years and since early 2020 physically based in Shanghai. So welcome, Søren.
Thank you.
Also today, to cover the Chinese angle of the blockchain theme, we have Jay Jiang, a partner at WeChain, and Jay Jiang handles WeChain's global corporate structure and leads the blockchain governance framework and digital asset management teams. Welcome also to you, Jay.
Thank you, Hans.
And finally, but not least, we have Snorre Sigurdsson, who has a master's degree in agronomy and has worked on dairy projects across the world, including 4 years as a leader of China-Denmark Milk Technology Cooperation Center, and that is a joint venture between the dairy companies Arla and the Chinese Mengniu. But recently I understand that you have been reallocated to Arla, Nigeria, from which you are calling in from today. So it's very exciting. Welcome to you, Snorre.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We don't have much time, so I will ask each of the panel representatives a few questions. And while doing so, and as Peter said, you as a participant are most welcome to formulate the questions in the dialog box. Just type them in at your earliest convenience during this initial discussion, and then at the end of this part, we will try to cover as many questions as possible before wrapping up this part of the session. Starting with you, Søren, knowing that Danish Crown is unfortunately one of the few Danish companies who have started working on blockchain solutions to support sales. My question to you is that I know that Danish Crown have tons of data, but what have you found are the most relevant, sought after information a Chinese consumer seeks answers to?
Hello, Hans-Erik, and to everybody. That's a very relevant question because as business experts, we of course have a lot of knowledge about our products, our company, etc. And we have a tendency to overflow the customers or consumers with data. So they will just be like drowning in all the data, and they can't actually have an insight into what do I need and what is important, what is not important, and they.
The sound disappeared.
Sorry, yeah, I'm back now. I didn't know. So what we did was like we turned it upside down. So we actually started in consumer end and made analysis by the consumers to say that, okay, if you are looking at this product, a project, and you're looking at Danish Crown as a company, if you want to have the confidence in the product you have in your hand, what is important for you to know? What should we as a supplier? What should we give you our information? And it actually turned out to be quite simple. So they should have information about the product itself. They should have information about the company, and they should have information about the traceability in the system to have insurance that this is like the right one and this is a safe product. And that's actually what we did. So in our blockchain solution, when the consumers in the retail shops in China, they are scanning the QR code and our products, they will have like an entrance to a WeChat program where they will have the possibility to choose which kind of product is this, and a recipe just demonstrating how do I actually, what do I do in the kitchen when I have this product, which kind of ingredients should I do. There's a small video playing this. They will have information about Danish Crown as a company, so they will have more insight. Okay, what is this company? Why is that? Can I rely on that? And finally, And that's actually I think it's the most important part. We have a full traceability of the product. So when the consumer have this product and they have the viewing on the WeChat app, he can see that, okay, this product actually arrived to this store 7 o'clock this morning or whatever. But when did it arrive in the store? When did it leave the plant, Danish Crown plant? When did it arrive at the Danish Crown plant as raw material? When did it leave a cold store? When did it arrive in China? When did it was transported by Maersk? When was it shipped from Denmark, etc. So all back in the value chain, they can see step by step how does this work. And we included all kind of testing, quality reports or whatever is necessary, and they are all linked up to the specific product. So if they have like a sliced belly in the hand, it will be CIQ reports, importing reports, documents saying that this is the import of belly to China. This is the COVID-19 test or disinfection of the products for each separate product. So it's simply linked to the individual products, and that's a unique possibility. That's the way we have done it to make sure that the consumer will have the most possible reliability on our products, and that's the way we use the blockchain technology to demonstrate that for our customers.
Thank you, Søren. I've been told that with food scare, the certificates also have a very important role in your blockchain solution. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And you can say right now there is like a consumer scare in China for imported meat, and there is very important for us that we can demonstrate that we have done all what we should do. Everything is legal, everything is tested. We have a disinfection of the outer box. We have a test of the product. When it arrives to the plant, we will again have a disinfection. We will have like a test of both inside and outside the box afterwards, so the consumer can actually see step by step how do we test, how we actually document that everything is done in the right way.
Thank you, Søren. I'm a bit curious, actually, if we turn it the other way around. Your first question was, what is the consumer seeking? But you as a company, is there any way that there's some information you want to push to the consumers, either to support your brand or just the relevant food safety facts which the consumer might not necessarily know? So more in order to let's say cover an educational angle. Can you use the blockchain for that as well?
Yeah, in principle, when we have the contact and the dialogue with the consumer via this WeChat app, of course we can do whatever we want. We can play videos, we can attract attention in any way, like have a competition, like whatever questionnaire. So that's actually a very, very relevant way to cooperate and communicate with the consumer, and the possibility to say, okay, here we have a core message. You could say the basic message that we have full traceability, we have full control of the food safety and quality control, etc. So that's very basic. But on top of that, we are in Danish Crown, we're working with sustainability. So we will have like products with there's no antibiotics, there's no hormones, there's no heavy metals, etc. And we actually can document that by different kind of tests. So if we want to have this dialogue and this information sharing to the consumer, we can also do this. But again, remembering and reminding ourselves not to overflow the consumers with information they don't really need as they see it. So we can do some teasing, some giving them some information, but we should also be careful to choose the right way to do this.
Wonderful. That's a very good key message, not to overload information. Have blockchain, because COVID-19 have come on top of food scare, have your blockchain solution, given the consumer confidence, and if not the case, how are you then handle that issue of scare?
Yeah. It's too early actually we have the products on the market now, but it's still too early to see like a real difference from before and after. So it's right now I can't be very sure what is the effect of this. Is just like the normal development, or has it actually have an effect that we are now introducing the products in the market? So it's difficult to say, but there have been like this food scare on import products, and I think that the majority of directly consumer related meat products will have this influence at the moment. But it's slowly, it's like disappearing as the situation is improving in Europe, and as the consumers are getting more and more informed in the Chinese market.
I can't resist asking you another question before moving on to the panel. But have you added any new facilities as a reaction to the consumer scare of COVID-19?
Yeah, we of course, one of the things is that we have added all the documents, how we actually disinfect, which precautions are we taking in Denmark, which precautions are we taking when the products arrived in China, which precautions do we take on the plant, etc. And document all test results, negative test results, of course, document all initiatives we take, etc. So that has actually been added to the solution after the scare.
Thank you, Søren. I'll come back to you. Moving on to you, Jay. You're there?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. WeChain is, I know, assisting a lot of companies developing blockchain. What do you see as the latest trend with regard to applications, if any?
Okay, yeah. I think blockchain, as Ran introduced previously, that's blockchain becoming an infrastructure level of the technology, so it can be pervasively support different industries in the future. But as our experience during the past two, 3 years, food safety could be the first choice, being the breakthrough as the applications we can use for this industry, just because some kind of the highly regulated industries like financial industries and pharmaceutical industries, you have to go through some regulatories like FCDA, CDC, or like a central bank. So blockchain as a distributed technology, it would be so difficult to organize different participants into this plan. But for the food safety and traceability study, starting from the consumer's concern, it would be very good for the brands, for the producers to start to use this blockchain to demonstrate their product information, the logistic information, any kind of the introduction of the brand to the consumer, and convince the consumer to buy their brands. That would be a very good starting point. So food safety would be the one. And another trend, I can't help to stop that, but I think we need to be be aware that the recent trend would be very important about the carbon neutralization policies recently announced in a Congress meeting, because President Xi also announced the next national strategy about the carbon zero policies. So it would be a good trend, but it's very early now. So I just mentioned about this. Maybe later we can have some more time to discuss about this. Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. I would like to continue. I can't stop thinking about, I have some dialogues with various companies, and we are discussing whether blockchain solution can end up being a prerequisite for actually being able to sell anything, because the consumers demands it. So do you think it will be the choice of the consumers that they will demand that there is a blockchain solution attached to the product? Will it be a prerequisite? At the moment, you can get a premium maybe for having a blockchain solution, but later will that premium disappear and become a prerequisite for just selling anything?
I think that would ultimately be an choice for the consumers anyway. But to my point, it could take some time. There are some reasons. First of all, is the currently being a consumer, they're eager to understand the information from the products when they are buying something, including of the brand information, product information, even the logistic information, and some certificates. However, by scanning the QR code, they cannot really distinguish the technology they are using. To be honest, when you are using a centralized database from the brands, you are scanning the QR code. You using VChain, for example, VChain's blockchain technology, you also scan the QR code. So it could be no difference. But I can tell you some slight difference behind this. The first of all is if you scan some centralized database, the time would be very quick. The response time would be very quick. But if you are using some public blockchain or permissioned blockchain, there need some 2 to 3 seconds waiting time, because when you scan a QR code, it need to go to the blockchain to verify the information, running a smart contract. So to verify the genuine of the information, therefore, it could be a little bit slower than the centralized database. That's a technology difference. The second thing is when you use the blockchain technology, the brand or the service provider can produce a lot more information than the centralized database service provider. For example, we provide the service to Walmart China in China supermarkets and also Walmart Sam Club stores. And they provide a QR code. You can really scan the QR code starting from the producer, the sourcing area, regions, and the logistic areas, and the brand information, and also all the logistic information, and back to the superstore. And the consumer will be more comfortable to buy this thing, and rather than just to have the normal products. So I think time by time in the future, if they've got more information, and the consumer would be more comfortable and convinced to buy this kind of the products, rather than some of the products purely maybe lack of the information. That's really different. And the results when we provide the product to Walmart China, although single price of the product could be a little bit 1% or 2% higher than the normal price, the consumers still buy them because they're convinced they would be comfortable. So that's the result. So with this trend, I can say, well, with the time flies in the future, maybe that would be the first choice. Blockchain technology would be definitely the first choice for the consumer to use or to differentiate the products that they are buying different from the original traditional way.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I know that VChain is helping companies developing a blockchain solution. So I couldn't stop thinking about, how do you see blockchain as a tool can be used to deal with maybe COVID-19 and overcome the scare of COVID-19? Can blockchain be used for that?
Yeah, I think I just want to give a little bit of feature about blockchain technology, because using the blockchain, there are two very obvious strengthening points I want to mention. The first is that the information and data on the blockchain cannot be changed. And they can't be the fake information. Everything being uploaded, then you can never edit that and manipulate that. So that's one. So that increases the information credibility in the future. Second thing is what we call the collaboration situation. Just because if you are using a blockchain, you can invite a different participant into that to use blockchain and contribute their information on the blockchain. This point should be very important, and just because the recent trend after COVID-19, we can see a very popular topic talking about the vaccine passport. So think about that. If you are using a centralized database, how are you going to demonstrate that to other one? You really get the injection and it's safe enough, because the centralized database is a little bit single point weakness. Then it could be attacked, it could be manipulated, the information could not be genuine. However, if you are using a blockchain, the information is being uploaded, could be recognized by different parties. So it would be very good to use in different area. especially in recent our discussion with the EU Commission, different countries could have different solutions, but they can't resist the technology of blockchain, because they would have the consensus as, okay, we should upload our information onto the blockchain and make sure everyone believe the information on that is genuine. So that's very important trend. Another one is like food and safety, carbon neutralization. Everything is all about the information on the blockchain could be traced, could be valid, and could be believed by all the users. So that's different trend, but ultimately back to the feature of the blockchain. So I just want to record this point. Yeah.
Thank you, Jay, for a very elaborate answer on the question. I think we need to rush to
Sure.
moving on to you, Snorri. As Arla, I've been told that Arla, and I know that Arla is absolute number one in organic and focusing a lot on that. You know, it could be maybe relevant to learn what challenges Arla is experiencing in convincing the consumer that organic is the future and worth paying a premium for. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can. You know, our selling organic is about storytelling. When you produce organic products, you have a lot of traceability. You trace the products, the basic products farmers are using in making the milk, taking care of their cows or animals. You trace all the ingredients in the organic products from the source. So it's all about traceability. And when you are interacting with consumers, you only have a few seconds in the store every time. So it's about storytelling. It's about trust. We are fortunate to be the biggest manufacturing company in the world within organic dairy products. And we have, I think, the trust of consumers. But we also rely on the authorities. We use certifications, we have a public certification system in Denmark. We have also within European Union and also actually within China. So when we give our products or sell our products, the consumers are not only trusting in the company, but they're also trusting in the backup they have in the authorities of actually 3 different regions, if you can put it in that way. Yeah.
Thank you. Being organic, I'm told to understand, in effect means that you have to adhere to the toughest rules in the world. Again, how do you effectively inform of the value of organic to the consumers?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Again here, because organic is it's a lot about opinions about how to produce meat or how to produce milk. And here again, we are trying to give the consumers this image of the background of the production. In China, we sell it under the 1000 code. We are the only company in the world that can brag of having the 1000 code within organic, because we are number one. That's the one, and then no one else can have that. So that's a good way. But again, it's similar as to the previous question you had. It's about the background. It's about the story. But we also emphasize a lot about environment too. Organic is about animal welfare. It's about medicine use. It's about grazing cows, cows going outside when conventional cows are probably many of them inside, and so on and so on. So in our case, we also put emphasis on the energy use and the green background. So all our products, if they're organic, made in Denmark, they're made with green energy. That's mandatory. So it's about the story. We want the consumer to feel and know when they buy and look at the logo that they are supporting not only good animal welfare and medicine use or strong medicine use, but also the environment. So that's basically what we are trying to get. Yeah.
You mentioned the authorities, and I understand that Arla cooperates with the Chinese authorities and Mingyu to improve Chinese dairy farm standards. How do you do that in practice, and how do you convey again this result to the end consumers?
Yeah, in practice, we did it by establishing the CDNTCC that you mentioned in the introduction, the China-Denmark Milk Technologies Cooperation Center, which is a long and beautiful word. But we did that in 2012 when we entered China for the second time after the melamine crisis that everybody knows about. And then at that time, we decided to establish this cooperation to improve the farms, improve the farm standards, improve the milk quality and animal welfare, and focus on how can we import knowledge and know-how from Denmark, from Europe. We are the biggest farms in Europe. That's Danish farmers in dairy production. We have the best milk quality. We have the highest yield. We have a lot of good stories to tell from Denmark, actually, even though it's a small country. So this we brought into China in 2012, and we operated closely with the authorities, local governments, with dairy farmers all over China, with having seminars and all kinds of work to improve them. And today we see a totally different dairy production in China. Much bigger farms, productivity is high, milk quality is close to what is best in the world, and animal welfare. So we have really made a lot of change in only a few years, and that's that's actually amazing. And I've been working all over the world, but this is special for China. When the Chinese people, and I know this by fact, when they decide to change, they change, and it happens quickly. And that's actually the story to tell here.
Thank you very much to all three panelists. I'll come back to you again, but we are luckily, we're very fortunate to have a lot of questions from the participants. So if you the panel, can help me, I'll read out the questions, but try to keep your answers short so we get as many as possible. But before, and then while we are answering these questions, please also the panelists think about just one takeaway message you would like to give when we are wrapping up this session in 10 minutes time. So let me get to the first question, and please chip in. To do business with China via blockchain, which possibility has a foreign blockchain company or application to interact with the BSN Chinese infrastructure? Can technology connect with BSN via API? Thank you. I don't know who will volunteer to answer that question.
Yeah, I'm aware about these questions. BSN Chinese infrastructure is initialized by the China government, China Mobile, and Telecom Department, I remembered. And interestingly, VChain is also the member of that one. So to be honest, this is a permissioner blockchain circle. I'm afraid only use API could be a little bit difficult. BSN currently is considering about using some technology, what we call a side chain, or some other invitation policies to invite more members to join that circles. But it's still quite specific circles within in this permission blockchain, only related to some industries, related to telecom industries, not every other industries. So there could be some restraints. Just to consider about that, some recommendation. Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. We'll rush on to the next one. That goes to Danish Crown. Does full traceability of Danish Crown product include what companies does concerning their production, about the waste produced and eventually made sustainable?
Yeah, it's part of the general information about Danish Crown, so it's not linked to the individual products, but our sustainability issue is there as well. And you can say we try to popularly say that the only thing wasted is the oink. Everything else is used in our production in somehow. So yes, we try to do it, but I could say that even that really would like to the Chinese consumers to have a lot of focus and emphasis on the sustainability issue. Yes, there's a lot of interest, but it's still not a very important factor in the buying decision. I think it is going to come, and then we are prepared to be there. But right now it's more like they are like curious what's going on, but it is not a important part of their buying decision.
Thank you. And the other one we can do it very short, hopefully. But can you share examples of the QR code and how it works? Do you have some PowerPoint illustrating how your QR code works?
Yes, I have. And if we carry on, I'll see if I can find one, and then I'll just show it on the screen.
Okay, wonderful.
Just to demonstrate.
Yeah. We have a question. Not all information regarding the food processing and shipping is important to the consumers, and therefore I liked what you said, Søren, that you asked what is important for the consumers, but how do you pre-select the information? And that also goes to Arla, if you want to comment in on that.
If I should start, then yeah. I'll be a bit later with the real QR code, but no, we are for a consumer. It's important to know that this is the right product, and where is the origin, that we didn't cheat somewhere along the value chain. So the value chain must be, or the logistic chain must be unbroken. That's the consideration we have made. Then you can say there's a lot of information which is not like important. Okay, what is the actually chilling temperature in the reefer containers, or who did handle it? Was it Maersk, or who else did the transport? That might not be that important, but that we can demonstrate the products is arriving or actually coming from this slaughter or from this supplier and going all the way in an unbroken line to the retail store is the important issue we have been focusing on.
Thank you. I think the next one goes to Jay. Please keep the answers short. To get full traceability, I assume you need to get all partners and intermediates on the same blockchain. Is there a difference between Chinese partners and those abroad to convince a company to share the data on the same blockchain? Do you have any experience on that, Jay?
Actually, I'm not quite understanding about the second part. So I don't think there is any difference between the China partners or other overseas partners, because we also provide service to some global brands like Givenchy, like even Louis Vuitton and BMW. And I think, go back to the topic, the clients want to understand is about the product information and their traceability information. It's no difference which country they are coming from. So basically, the blockchain itself is not important. On the other side, when we provide a service, it's literally so difficult to provide the information from different blockchain. It would be so hard to generate one string of either QR code or chips for the people to scan and to reach two blockchain. It would be so difficult. So I think everything should be from one blockchain.
Yeah, there's a lot of technical questions here, but you need to commit a certain supplier of blockchain, like either Android or iOS, or is it not relevant for blockchain? If you have to commit to one, to one supplier, will all the supply chain need to use the same supplier?
Blockchain is that would be very quick. Blockchain is a lower level infrastructure level technology, so it's not relevant to either iOS system or Android system. So that's the application level system. So it's okay, never mind. So the lower level infrastructure is stable and on the cloud. So yeah, the information, you can either use iOS device or Android device to scan and to retrieve the information. That's the same. Yeah.
So you just say when you are ready if you want to share something. But the only issue the next question, the only issue I can see with blockchain is the source of the initial data points. Would this be written into some sort of IoT data point? Looking at the example of vaccine passports, we still need a trusted source of some sort for the initial data point. Anyone volunteering to answer that one?
Actually, I can contribute a little bit to this and to answer some questions maybe Hans, you will ask me later. To use the blockchain, you can really invite some authority to join this blockchain and to provide some certificates. Like VChain, what we did, we can invite our collaboration partners like PwC, some big four company, another one's DMV, the certificate company. They can choose the product to have some inspection and to issue the certificates directly on the blockchain. So with that one, the consumer would be more convinced because when they scan that, they will find a third-party certificates on that. That will give more assurance to the users. So that may solve the questions that the one answered, the source of the initial data is credible or not, because someone else, third parties, independent third parties will verify that. That would be very important.
Thank you, Jay. I can see that we have run out of time, so we will have to stop the questions from the panel. But I will just before we wrap up, can you just spend 30 seconds each giving one advice to the participants of a takeaway point, like don't put in too much information or whatever. Should we start with you, Snorri?
Sure. I think, like in our case, Arla Foods is the fourth biggest dairy manufacturing company in the world. So what we are trying to emphasize, we don't use the blockchain in our sales channels. We want people to trust the logo, trust Arla, trust us and our background. This is like two ways, but of course we have the traceability on all the products, so that's also possible. But I just wanted to say if there are newcomers into the Chinese market, a blockchain or traceability is a big thing, and it's important, especially within the food production. So I urge all the newcomers to look at it, because I think that it's going to help them quite well into the Chinese market. It's for a big company like Arla Foods selling products in 100 countries. It's different. I know it's easier for us to adapt to new regulations and so on, but for newcomers, smaller companies, I think this technology seems very good. Yeah.
Thank you. And to Jay, do you have any recommendations or takeaway points?
Okay. So actually, I would be much quicker. I have collected some information and questions from the guests, and also I think there would be a lot more points to share when the people or clients or customers or enterprise using blockchain technology. But the better side is we do have some introduction of the blockchain services and coming up with the deck. Also, they included some QR code for the customers to scan for that. I already shared this with Ran. So maybe after the meetings, this deck can be shared with some guests. And if you are interested, you can take a look, and some more points can be shared with that. And the last thing is I want to share is to believe blockchain technology, because it will bring a lot more credibility to you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. And Søren, if you would, any advice, and maybe you can also wrap up on the QR code.
Yeah. Can you see a QR code on the screen? Yeah, super. This is like a test one, so I just tried to test it on my own phone, and there was some flaws, but see if you can make it try it. At least there are some of I see the information about the product, information about the insurance, etc. No, but if I should give some advice, I think I've mentioned it several times, but it's that the blockchain gives a lot of possibilities, because you have all kind of data all along the value chain. You actually can share with the consumers. So be very careful what to share and what not to share in the way you actually use the technology. I would say that's the short advice from my side.
Thank you very much. And with these words, we will wrap up this part of the of the session. So we're back to the studio, Peter.
Yes, thank you so much. I just needed to get back on camera here. Thank you so much to all of you for a great and very interesting discussion. We're now at the point where we'll take a small break here in China. I think we'll go out for an afternoon coffee back in Denmark. Perhaps you can have a tipirkes or whatever. And then we will start again in 10 minutes time. That means around 4:15 local time, 10:15 in Denmark. Thank you. So we are back. I hope you have all enjoyed your refreshments. I can see we have some moderator and some strong panelists in the frame now. That means we are ready for the second panel discussion of the day. The focus this time is how blockchain makes cities lean, clean, and green. The discussion will focus on blockchain and other new technologies and how they are required to meet China's climate targets, among other issues. We know that China's experiences often create best practices for the rest of the world. So how can Denmark and China work together on this type of issue is what we want to get deeper into in this discussion. To help us introduce the panelists and guide the discussion, we are pleased to welcome Professor Roman Beck. He is a professor at the IT University in Copenhagen, as well as the head of the European Blockchain Center. Roman is a leading blockchain expert in Europe, and he has done extensive research on key issues related to the topic. Roman, over to you.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you for this fantastic panel and for all the guests visiting us today to discuss this exciting topic on how blockchain makes cities lean, green, and green. It's a nice title in itself. And as Peter pointed out, there is a lot of ongoing activities around autonomous systems, mainly based on DLT, on blockchain solutions, in order to help decarbonizing our industry. And as you may have seen in the invitation to this panel, the CO2 emissions may peak in China in 2030, and China is planning to be carbon-free in 2060. However, while here in Denmark, we are actually having a bit more ambitious plans, with Copenhagen, for example, being carbon neutral already, the capital, the city of Copenhagen being carbon neutral already in 2025. So clearly the question is, how much is technology contributing to solving global problems such as global warming, and kind of decarbonization is one of the keys to it. And of course also how it is kind of part of the problem. As Peter pointed out, I'm doing research on blockchain for quite a long time. We are doing education in that area as well as consulting, mainly kind of helping governments around the world and central banks on blockchain solutions. And for those who would like to learn a bit more about blockchain, in the same line of funding from Industriens Fund that has funded this blockchain business bridge solution, we also are lucky to have some funding for a blockchain academy. So if you are in Copenhagen, you can participate free of charge in blockchain courses. And that was my advertisement block in the chat now. Now, further to our fantastic panel. I will briefly introduce the panel and then have a few questions. And as the previous panel, we will have questions from the audience. So please feel free and state your questions in the chat, and I will try and follow what's going on in the chat, and we'll ask the panel those questions. We have Mads Møller from Nordic Group, and he's the CEO of Nordic Group. Welcome, Mads. Focusing for a long time on living conditions in urban areas. And most interestingly for this panel, clearly he has 5 years of experience in planning about 10 cities. And now I have to get this call away. My phone was ringing. 10 cities in large urban areas in China, following concepts to sustainable urban development there. So clearly somebody who can say a lot about sustainability and making countries and urban quarters more livable in China. Second, we have Vincent Wang from Wangzhang, I hope I pronounced it correctly, Wangzhang Group. He's the executive president of Wangzhang Blockchain Inc., with a background working for Intel and IBM, and now is kind of working at one of the most influential and striving blockchain companies in China. Welcome, Vincent, to be with us today, and we are looking forward to your contributions and views on how sustainable autonomous systems, also known as blockchain systems, might help in decarbonizing cities. Last but not least, Andy Brani from Ramböll, kind of located in Singapore, I believe, and he's the head of SMART. It's a nice acronym. Maybe you can enlighten us what SMART stands for. Responsible for smart engineering consultancy. That sounds very fancy, with a passion for creating new and innovative solutions in a sustainable and more livable way for societies. All three have extensive experiences kind of in Asia and China, clearly kind of Vincent being located in China. So we have a fantastic panel that has both kind of a sustainability angle and a deep footprint in technology. And with no further delay, I will start with my starting question, and we'll ask Mads about, with China, Asia, but China specifically, having undergone a tremendous transformation in the last decade, not just economically, but also kind of in this greening initiative. What are the mega trends, and what are you seeing when it comes to transforming and decarbonizing industry, and what kind of role is technology playing here?
Thank you very much, Roman, and thank you all for inviting me to participate today. I'm Mads Møller, and I'm the CEO or founder of Nordic Group. But previously, actually, I was also running the COVID office in China, and actually some of my experiences is also from there. So I've been working on urban projects in China since the last 15 years. And just overall, I think the development is tremendous. I think everyone here knows that already, but just to get back in a little bit in memory lane. And in 2007, we had this great fast-paced urbanization in China that still is. But at that time, there were so many new urban development, and a lot of them were framed as eco-cities. But basically, they were so-called eco-cities, and they are fake, because not much of all the sustainability features that was actually part of the cities were actually realized. So they were made to attract the investors, and then as soon as possible, the investors and developer were on board. Then the sustainability measures were taken more or less out of the project. It's huge challenge. But then gradually, China has been China is very ambitious, but has also forced that into urban developments, and that is our prime focus for our business. And even though that you say that Copenhagen and Denmark is ambitious, yes, we are, but China is also coming from another platform. And to some extent, China is actually moving much faster than Europe now. And actually, we have a strategic project right now for the German GIZ, where we are analyzing different Chinese projects that actually can act as something that could actually help us doing our developments even better here in Europe. And that is also the foundation for why I established Nordic 5 years ago, because our core mission is to create the best possible conditions for urban life. But also, we have to work in China, because China is the fastest developing urban, with the highest urban rate in the world. And I believe that this is also where new innovations will come from, because of the pace, simply because of the pace. On the other hand, there's no doubt about it that the Scandinavian quality of living that we have in Denmark and the Nordic countries have some appeal in China, but also it's quite difficult to actually on an urban scale to to just actually introduce. So that is actually that is our focus in our business, and with respect to the megatrends that forming underneath all urbanization, but also in general, there's urbanization, no doubt. The urbanization rate, everyone here knows how fast it is. It's going to be the cities that are going to save us. Also with respect to all of the challenges that we are looking into. That is tremendous in China, more than anywhere else. But also all the effects of climate change is huge. And demography changes, another huge trend. Yes. Even more in China than maybe in Northern Europe because of the one-child policy. So you have 1 child, 2 parents, 4 grandparents. So this demography change and how that actually how does it interact, but also how there is a fight among the cities to attract the most interesting demographies. This is something that really is actually quite a big issue. Then the health is even more with the COVID-19, but also before that is increasingly big trend. How do we design the cities so they are healthy in large scale? And for sure, digitalization and smart and AI or blockchain or whatever we call it. So it is the mega trends.
Awesome, Mads. Thank you very much for this overview. I can't resist coming back to smart engineering consultancy, Andy. When we talk about the technology to the rescue of society to prevent global warming and so on, then what we are talking is essentially we need mechanisms, enforceable mechanisms that re-engineer existing incentive mechanisms that do not completely account for, let's say, emitting carbon today, enjoying economic growth, and dealing with the consequences later. So technologies such as blockchain might be an enabler of actually having a proper accounting system that is making each and every entity accountable in this game. What are you doing in this area, Andy, and what is Ramboll doing in engineering smarter solutions for more livable work environments?
Okay, it's a great question. Thank you, Roman. And to my Chinese colleagues, Daja Ha. So basically, I guess it's worth, as you said at the beginning, just giving a bit of an idea of what we do. And it's interesting, the mix of panelists on this call, and I know that Mads, with the urban planning and design, we come at it from the engineering side of that as well. So it's what is actual infrastructure in a city that is needed to support all of this. And I agree with what you said, Roman. Actually, blockchain is one of the huge opportunities for creating that accountability. So if we look at, there was the carbon trading system, which was widely touted as being an answer to all of our problems and didn't quite take off as it should have done. I think definitely we could see a resurgence in things like that. What we're doing in terms of Ramboll ourselves is when we're looking at the technologies of cities, particularly the master plans within China, is also exactly what you're talking about, is creating the operating models and governance around those cities as well. The primary reason why technology projects fail is because there is a lack of focus on how do you use this technology to get the outcome you wanted. And everyone kind of thinks, oh, we'll design this really cool system or product, throw it at the users, no one knows what to do with it, and surprisingly fails. So that's what we've been doing as well. So we're actually looking at the government level and then moving beyond the design phase, which is our traditional area, to then say, yes, okay, so city government, how do you then operate this system? How do you bring together? And as well, this is one key part. It's not just about one technology, because as you say, blockchain is part of the solution. It's about, when we look at a city, it's about mobility systems. It's about how you arrange the programming within the city. It's about down to the wayfinding. It's down to, I know we talk about 5-minute cities and everything else, but even that needs to be data responsive. And then blockchain comes in as kind of as Jay mentioned, a supporting lower end infrastructure to allow that. So we focus on that governance element, and we see blockchain as part of that governance to really bring all of those systems together and track the end-to-end usage and of course the sustainability credentials of these different systems.
Thanks a lot, Andy. And of course, I have to bring Vincent on in this debate as well. Kind of zooming in at the epicenter of what happens in China. with Vincent being kind of very instrumental in this development. We talked about re-engineering incentive structures. We talked about governance mechanisms. We talked about reward mechanisms that can be semi or fully autonomously be enforced in order to change behavior, to nudge citizens to be more eco-friendly, if you will. So there are different ways now where technology can help us being an actor in changing systems, much more than it has been the case with other technologies. I think this is the underlying sort of big difference between blockchain and RFID or scanning QR codes, which is in combination with blockchain giving us this interoperability operation system, if you will, between entities and organizations and cities. Vincent, you are involved in many projects in that area, and of course now I'm burning to hear what is your view on blockchain creating fully or semi-autonomous systems in helping us to protect values, to be more sustainable, and to ultimately decarbonize society?
Sure thing. The matter of fact, just 3 weeks ago, there's China's biggest expo for the electronic appliance industry. Many of you have probably heard of the Chinese brand Haier. They specialize in a broad range of home appliances, but they do particularly well in fridges and in washers, right? So we signed a strategic agreement with Haier to develop a IoT plus blockchain solutions to be installed into home appliances, beginning with washer and eventually spreading out to other appliances. What does that do? The IoT device will be able to measure the electricity use of the different of the washer, and it will be able to detect what kind of washing cycle you use. You can use a more energy efficient washing cycle, and you can choose to use to turn on your washer at off-peak hours. And when you do so, the users will be awarded the carbon credits, and these carbon credits can be used to in a broad range of circulation possibilities, including but not limited to paying off part of your electricity bill. So what does this do? This sounds nice, but what kind of economic value does it create? First, it creates economic value for the state grid, and the regional grid, of course. So basically, because of China's rapid urbanization, the urban population keeps growing and growing. So the grid, and per capita use of electricity has always been on the rise. Has also been on the rise. So this poses a serious challenge for the state grid, that they keep having to expand capacity of the grid around major cosmopolitan centers. So if you can nudge people, toward using less electricity and at the same time use electricities in off-peak hours, you reduce the need for the state grid to introduce a greater capacity and therefore make the carbon neutrality objective more remote. So we work with Haier. We develop IoT plus blockchain solutions. It comes in a module that can connect to the power supply, and it will have near field capability to not only measure the host device, but also the devices, the other appliances around it. And the other appliances may not belong to the same OEM. They may not be Haier's own brand. So with blockchain, you can build a point system to create incentives for other brands to join. So what we're aiming to do is in 2 to 3 years, introduce a scaled deployment of responsible electricity use around Chinese households in major cities. So that's one example. Now, this is an ongoing effort. You may ask, can you name an existing or a past project where carbon neutrality already factors in blockchain applications? I can give you one. I think the world should begin to recognize the different provenance of Bitcoin, for example. The mining, as you know, China has always been one of the biggest mining countries. The difference between many parts of China where mining, coin mining is active, and other parts, for example, along the Silk Road, in Kazakhstan and in Central Asia, is that many of these mining operations are around southwestern China, where they use hydraulic power. So therefore, the Bitcoin generated there, mined out there, will have much lower carbon footprint compared to say a Bitcoin generated in Mongolia. I think that should be recognized. The provenance. So if we can, when we trade Bitcoins, if the provenance of that Bitcoin could be tracked and added as a value dimension, that would be very helpful.
That would be very helpful. And Vincent, that brings us to a very important area, namely the tokenization of something like the energy market. When we talk about decarbonization, clearly the energy sector together with the transport sector are key sectors in helping us to decarbonize and be more sustainable in the future. And what you are mentioning is one of the key elements, namely the guarantee of origin, not just of organic food, as we discussed in the previous panel, but of course also the guarantee of origin of, is that truly green energy? And clearly I want to aim towards smart grids, and many people in this call may know that Denmark is now working on an artificial island in the North Sea for 28 billion euros, the single biggest infrastructure project ever rolled out, to create up to 10 gigawatts of energy for 10 million households. And the whole promise is to do power to X. So wind turbine energy will be transformed, let's say, in hydrogen. And when this is transformed back into energy, you as a consumer, you want to know if the origin of that hydrogen, of that green hydrogen, has been actually wind or a nuclear power plant. So guarantee of origin is very important, and the tokenization in order to guarantee this green transformation of the energy sector. Now, back to Andy and then to Mads. Andy, how much is that in this engineering part already realized, and how much is tokenization in the greening of industry a topic for you? And finally, Mads, maybe afterwards for you, how much is that already apparent and a topic among electricity users who are willing to be nudged, if you will, when you talk about greening solutions. So, but first Andy and then Mads, please.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Roman. Yeah, so I think definitely it's a very relevant topic right now, as I mentioned, with the governance piece particularly. Of course, it requires a lot of buy-in from industry within this, and this is where the interesting piece is going to be. I think it's a little bit convenient for energy companies right now to not be quite so traceable, perhaps. So I think it's definitely going to require some intervention from governments to stipulate these kind of requirements. So it's definitely coming in from that side, but I don't think it's quite widespread yet. We're starting to see the birth of it, I think, particularly in the Nordics. So actually, we've been working in Finland with a few startups there who are looking at this exact idea. And actually, interestingly, as we've seen with sustainability, often it's driven by financials as well. Unfortunately, it seems to be that way around. What we're actually seeing is startups come and get it from another way to get the energy companies to do this, which is by looking at how do you stock market the energy supply, so that I can buy 10 units from the supplier and 5 from here. And when you start to do that, that's when I think we'll really see the takeoff of this kind of approach from the energy companies, because the more green you are, the more you will sell. because I think we're more ethical consumers now, and we're all concerned with climate change, etc. So yeah, so in response to your question, to summarize, yes, I think it's very prominent in the design aspects at the moment, and we're trying to bring that in and deal with it and push clients. But I think it does require governments who are going to need to nudge that way, and also some kind of change in the energy market that shows consumers will drive that change requirement for energy companies to do that.
Thanks a lot. Change in the energy market also to kind of drive changes among the consumers. How is that something that is related to your projects, Mads, in the urban development of greening more sustainable quarters, kind of local communities?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting. I think we're also working, when we look at the cities, we are working on all the infrastructure as well, also the engineering part and crossover also to solve what Andy is working with. I'm just, the original question was how, as I understood it, Roman, was how the energy infrastructure, how the token, how the consumer actually need to understand where the energy comes from. I'm not sure that this trend will be so big yet. I think because basically when we are talking about the basic infrastructure of energy system, for example, you have electricity, you have heat, and heat is quite, then you can supply it by district heating, like we are very good at in Denmark, and Beijing has a very strong district heating system. And then you can discuss how is that energy produced? Is that produced renewable or not? But this is such big scale. So it's quite easy to actually track back and to see where it is. I think where we will see the token and the blockchain opportunities will be when we roll out the smart city in smart grid, the smart grid, because then it will be very important to see, okay, if you supply from your own solar panels into the grid, actually where does all of this come from? I think that could be something, but I think basically that will be years to come. Even though that China is fast, I still think that years to come. What I think is more important in related to blockchain technologies could be that the consumers, but also we need to know where all the products that we are installing in our houses comes from, and when we construct it, where is how much energy, how much carbon have been used to produce the concrete, the wood panels, and so forth. And there we just rolled out a new legislation or recommendation in Denmark for new building guidelines that are going to enforce these things. So I see that could be a quite strong opportunity for you to utilizing blockchain technologies to actually target, so I can understand where is the concrete coming from and how was it produced carbon wise.
I think one other thing, Roman, if I could just add, is actually the 3-star system for green buildings in China as well. Actually, they have their in-use certification as well, which actually requires you prove that the operation is green as well, which I think is really forward-thinking. There's not much of that around right now. And again, blockchain there could have a real good impact in actually proving that they have been operating, not just designed to like LEED Platinum as 3-star platinum here, but 3-star, but then you're actually operating in the way that the building was meant to be as well, and that's a key element as well. Good tool.
Right. It's nice how naturally the discussion moves towards kind of from certificates of guarantee of origin of energy towards something like certificates for emitting carbon dioxide. So kind of Vincent also was talking about a reward mechanism to flatten the peak time so that people kind of start their washing machine, or the system autonomously is deciding when is the optimal time actually to start the washing machine, and you get something like a reward token in return for waiting or for having the washing machine washing in the night. So there's still carbon in the production of a washing machine, and that we will not see that everything will be carbon neutral anytime soon. So we also need to talk about, when we talk about smart cities, green solutions, and blockchain, about the trading and auctioning of carbon certificates. And as it has been mentioned previously also here in the chat, China is quite active also on the blockchain service network, BSN, to trade carbon. There has been an announcement, or already kind of first tradings with Brazil, where you can buy carbon certificates. for kind of rainforest, for companies in China who are in need for this kind of certificates. What is your view on certificate trading and double spending and avoiding double counting of energy certificates? And how important is that? And how much, that is a question to start with Vincent. Is that something you are involved in as well? And how is blockchain a help here and comes to the rescue?
We have been working on a leading digital city project in China, right here in Shanghai, called the North Bund project. This is actually where I'm sitting. The North Bund project aims to take a big step toward carbon neutrality, but it's very difficult for a city to be carbon neutral, even for a residential area to be carbon neutral on its own. It has to be connected to the outside world, and it has to be combined, preferably with other missions. And so happens that with the rapid urbanization in China, such other additional or adjacent missions do exist. For example, over the last 15 years, major Chinese cities have signed up on different collaborative programs with a less developed area. So in Chinese, it's called bangfu. This is kind of a help and support projects. City of Shanghai, for instance, will send out teachers to remote areas, to send out doctors and nurses to remote areas to even out the inequality of regional development. And so this mission seems to be unrelated to the digital city project, but they're actually they could be developed in great synergy. For instance, a building can sign up to a commitment of carbon neutrality in 2 years. How did it do that? Of course, the buildings, no matter how energy efficient, will still be using energy. Even renewable energy is still energy, and still uses bricks, and bricks have carbon footprints. Everything has a carbon footprint. But what the building can do is they can invest in farms and tree farms in remote area. So when you build a tree, when you invest in tree farms in a remote area, those will be acting, of course, as a carbon depository, and they reduce the carbon footprint. So when you make a large enough, when a business park makes a large enough investment into these remote areas, they achieve two things. One, they stick to their carbon neutrality commitment. That roadmap, they can stay on the roadmap, they know where they are, they know how much they need to do so they can keep in sync. They build this kind of a carbon credit portfolio that aims at zero sum total. And then, but in the meantime, by investing in these tree farms in remote areas, they are helping the local economy. They're helping the local environment as well. So you basically get two birds with one stone. So that's we do not believe that in China the low carbon objectives they exist in isolation. They are very closely related, and they are being implemented synergistically with other social objectives and other developmental objectives.
Vincent, before I move on to Mass, he's raising his hand. I have one follow-up question here, and that is about kind of the role of blockchain. You mentioned kind of reforestation, and you get kind of certificates. Critically, I could say that is something you can do with a more traditional technology as well. So what do you gain from doing it on a DLT system instead? And just one or two sentences.
Yeah, you will make sure that you can manage these carbon reduction projects with great granularity. If you do not use blockchain, the management costs will be very high in order to avoid double accounting, right? Yes. So, for example, the remote province will they will do their own carbon reduction calculation that will be overlapping with the with the leading cities' own rallying.
Right. Thanks a lot. Mads, you on that topic?
Yes, just because I cannot, I just cannot resist just to mention that that China was very, very good in utilizing the carbon trading mechanisms when we had them in the broad sense in UN 10 years ago, 20 years ago. More than half of all the credits were used in China. And it actually enabled a quite big transition and underlined the financial situation for a lot of renewable energy projects, wind farms, landfill, and so forth. So, and now actually China is coming back and have developed, I think in the world, China has the best carbon trading system now. And no doubt about it that the blockchain could, because of the identity uniqueness of it, could trade it back. But the system is actually quite okay. Just to lift it a little bit into when we're talking about the cities again, Roman, just to send my last remarks here, we have to remember when we are talking about sustainability, and I think the cities and what we can do. I think energy is really not a big problem on the long run because we know we have the technologies to both to have very high energy efficient in the cities, but also we have renewables that could supply the energy. So it's just we have the technologies. With respect to mobility and transportation, that is a little bit more difficult. But when we are concentrating the cities and the people, we have to think back and be more clever and design the cities like actually we did 2,000 years ago until the last 50 years. So yeah, the most livable quarters in Rome is in the Latin quarters without the cars. And so actually, so we can just take it out. It's easy. And that is what we do in our projects in China. We just take the cars out and then we reduce the carbon credit. We did that in Beijing and we have done that in Chengdu as well now. And then we come to food. And I think that's what we had the previous one where you actually can show how actually the food production is.
If I can interrupt you, we stay with transport first before we move to food because we talked about food before. So I wanted to discuss in that panel and electricity and transport, and you started talking about transport, which is fantastic. You know, transport in urban societies, kind of individual transport, your own vehicle, that is certainly not a way forward. And indeed, you know, in the near future, energy will not be the problem because there will be most likely even a surplus of green energy, something we can hardly imagine today. So we have to focus on other areas where we still need nudging and operating systems, inter-organizational between human beings that are organizing kind of like a smooth transit, inter-module transport in cities so that people are actually willing to give up on their own cars. And decarbonization and kind of smooth transport in mega cities is going to be a mega trend, even when we have solved at some point the energy production side. What is your take on that, Vincent, when it comes to transport in urban environments, in smart, hopefully smart cities in the future? And what are you working on in that context? What kind of projects do you have?
We're working on let me begin with let me open with a kind of a historical Chinese innovation that's very much maligned by Germans. That is bike sharing. I remember a number of German investors are very blunt in just calling that plain out stupid. It doesn't make any economic sense. It's just stupid. Well, you know, the bike sharing does have its problems and challenges, as you know, many of the old China hands here are well aware of. However, that bike sharing is still staying with us, and now the bike sharing is moving, they're getting into a 2.0 stage. So the 2.0 that we're beginning to see more and more electric bike. Being deployed in bike sharing. Now that's important. So, you know, of course, if we want to be an environmental purist, nothing is better than your number 11. So the number 11 in China means your two legs, right? So if you can, you have a manual bike, that's perfect. So electric bike does use energy. However, it's bad. It does have its virtue compared to the mechanical bike because that allows you to actually cover longer distance and make it more feasible to really give up on your car. So a number of bike sharing giants in China, including Hello, are deploying that, and Mobike, I understand, have been deploying that. And Hello actually would go so far as to develop their own models. Now, what we're doing here is we use blockchain to connect finance with the energy infrastructure for bike sharing. So what does that mean? The bike sharing, just like the car in the electric car space, you're seeing the cars to be separate from the batteries. So you used to you go to a battery exchange station rather than waiting there for your car to be charged up. And China's NIO is leading that deployment in China. With a two-wheel vehicle, with a bike, with an e-bike, that's just natural. And we're working with our own, the Wanxiang's own trust company to provide investment for this kind of project, so that down the road, we believe in the lower Yangtze River region, within 3 years, you will see a very extensive blockchain-based battery asset management infrastructure.
Very interesting. Kind of with one eye on the clock, I have to kind of ask kind of Andy and Mess to kind of be quick and brief, and then I have one last question for the three of you to put a bottom on this and wrap up. So Mess and Andy, and then Mess, please.
Okay, yeah, very quickly. Great on transport. So yes, I think absolutely we need to have more sharing, and we need to have mobility as a service is rising now. As you say, there's seamless transition between all of the different modes. I think that's a key enabler, and we're doing a lot of work in that. I think secondly, on the urban design element, obviously adaptive reuse needs to be considered when we're designing new cities. So we're designing cities for today, but the car demand will fall over time. So how are we designing buildings and city structures so that they are ready? Like if you look at Nordhavn in Copenhagen, that was actually a Rambo project, so small plug. But there is a car park in there, which we didn't do, which is designed to be adapted to a recycling center as car usage demand falls. Secondly, I think, thirdly, is about the longer distance trips and the trips within the city. We also have to consider in the massing in the form of these new cities, how do we enable the climate to be appropriate for this? Because, you know, if you go up to Harbin, cycle sharing up there is a different experience to if you're down in Chengdu. So I think we have to, again, it's a holistic picture. It's how do we design these cities and even optimize all of the massing, the wind corridors, environmental variables to allow that. And then finally, the green energy is a key part of that, and we need to make sure that, first off, if we're talking electric vehicles, we have to move away from fossil fuels for the electricity, and also have the infrastructure in place so that if you are doing, let's say, public buses, shuttle buses, or autonomous vehicles that are using these cities, how do they rapidly recharge and also have the infrastructure to support them? That was my first.
And I asked for a short comment. Kind of this was a bit longer short comment. Kind of before I move on to Mats for his short comment, I would like to ask all three of you to think about in 2030, looking back, what would be, and I want one sentence in the end from each of you. Looking back in 2030, what has been the single biggest achievement that has been driven by DLT systems to have more sustainable economies? But first, Mess, and then your one claim to fame, looking back from 2030, what have we achieved in 2030 with technology and smart cities? Mess, over to you.
Yeah, respecting the time, Roman, I think this is the last question is simply almost too difficult to answer. But I really believe that actually the transformational mobility system will actually be what we're looking back to. This is not about how we do it. It's just we have to get on those bikes. Just when the shared bikes introduced in Beijing, the air pollution was reduced by 10% and the traffic congestion tremendously. And in Copenhagen during the COVID-19, we have analyses from what we do that 80% more have used bikes than the year before. So that we certainly have these disruptions like the COVID-19 situation really changing behavior. The change of behavior is really what we need to push forward for, because this is the only reason how we can actually achieve our ambitions on climate change. So change of behavior, and hopefully the blockchain can help to do that, but has to do fast.
Yes, blockchain helping us to change societal behavior. Mads, thanks a lot. Andy and then Vincent.
I would say true globalization. Blockchain will allow us to really realize the movement of knowledge, of finance, of information across borders in a safe and secure way.
And enforcing contracts and agreements globally via blockchain to enforce our green policies and strategies. Thank you, Andy. Vincent?
Well, looking back, I hope that we will see a much broader range of business models for renewable energy with blockchain than the cryptocurrency mining, and I believe that will happen.
So let's say kind of more sustainable business models on ledger, which we haven't seen so far in 2030. We could continue this debate for forever. Thank you very much. Kind of, we are a bit already over time. I can see Peter is kind of showing his face. So this is the next level of escalation to stop here. Thank you very much for your participation. It was a pleasure moderating this session. And back to Peter. And thank you very much for having us in this panel today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I also want to say thank you so much for a really, really interesting discussion. I agree with Roman. I think we could continue for a long time. We'll just have to take it to take another make another event about these topics. I'm sure there will be a lot more to talk about in the future. But for now, we actually have one item left on the agenda, but where Ron will just talk a little bit about the support program we are on blockchain that we're running right now. But Ron, considering the time, perhaps it's something that we could you could instead send the presentation, or do you just want to run through it fast? Are you there, Ron?
Yes. I can I can send out the presentation afterward.
Okay. I think that could probably be useful, you know, because it's also a little bit difficult to see the details on the presentation. So let's simply send out the whole deck in once. That means we can more or less keep the time schedule here. Concluding today's program, we very much hope that you have enjoyed the discussions as much as we have ourselves here. And we also hope that the audience can use these many insightful takeaways. I want to thank all the speakers, the moderators and panelists for your great contributions. I also, of course, want to thank the audience for asking a lot of interesting questions. Not all of them did we have time to answer today, but we'll look at the inputs and we will for sure try to get back to you with some contributions on these topics. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot and bye-bye. Take care.